You make the perfect cast. The lure sails out and lands with a soft plop. You flip the bail and you start feeling that subtle ticking as your jig sinks toward the bottom. Then, out of nowhere, thump. You feel that unmistakable electric jolt of a bite, but you were a split second too late and you miss him. So you let the lure hit the bottom, let it sit there for a good 10-20 seconds, and nothing. You hop it once, nothing. You drag it a little, still nothing. The fish that was so aggressive a moment ago has vanished. Sound familiar? This happens to every single one of us. And we're always told it's just how it goes. Well, that's a lie. In this video, I'm going to reveal the brutal biological truth about why fish hammer your lure on the fall, but treat it like a rock the second it stops. And I promise you, by the end of this, you'll realize you've been wasting 90% of your cast.
Let me ask you this right now, and be honest in the comments. Do you think a long pause on the bottom is a genius tactic or a total waste of time? Let's find out who's right. For generations, we've been fed the same old advice, the classic wisdom passed down from Grandpa, from fishing magazines, from old-timers at the boat ramp. It goes something like this. Patience is key. Get your lure down there and let it soak. Give the fish time to find it. And so we do. We develop this almost robotic retrieve. Cast, let it sink on a slack line, feel for the bottom, and then begin this slow, methodical process of hop, pause, reel, repeat. The pause is considered a critical part of the presentation. We imagine a big bass or a wary walleye cautiously approaching our lure, inspecting it during that long, silent pause before finally deciding to eat. We've built our entire strategy around this idea of a careful, deliberate fish, but what if that entire foundation is wrong? What if we're catering to a type of fish behavior that almost never happens, while completely ignoring the single most aggressive instinctual trigger that exists? This belief is why so many fishing trips end in frustration, with anglers convinced the fish just weren't biting today. First, let's talk about the ambush instinct. Predator fish are hardwired for one thing: efficient energy use. They are programmed over millions of years of evolution to identify and attack the easiest possible meal. A healthy, alert baitfish swimming normally is a difficult target that requires a lot of energy to chase. But a creature that is wounded, disoriented, and falling helplessly through the water column, that is the dinner bell. Your lure, as it flutters and spirals downwards, perfectly mimics this. It's not just a piece of plastic, it's a living signal of vulnerability. It's screaming, "I am weak, I am dying, I am an easy meal," to every predator in the area. The fish isn't making a calculated decision based on hunger. It's acting on a deep-seated primal instinct that says, strike now, think later. The opportunity is too perfect to pass up, and its brain is flooded with the command to attack before something else does it. This leads us directly to the concept of the reaction strike. This is probably the most misunderstood part of fishing. Many anglers think a bite is always a feeding response. It's not. A reaction strike has almost nothing to do with hunger. Imagine you're sitting on your couch, and someone throws a ball at your face. You don't stop to think, am I hungry for a ball right now? You just instinctively put your hands up to catch it or swat it away. A fish does the same thing. When your lure suddenly drops into its field of vision, flashing and vibrating, it's an invasion of its space. It's a sudden, unexpected event that triggers a purely neurological reflex. The fish bites not to eat, but because its brain is screaming threat, anomaly, get it. This is a defensive, aggressive, or territorial response. It's why a fish with a belly full of bait fish will still slam a falling spoon. You aren't tempting it. You are forcing its hand. Or, well, its mouth. Let's consider the vulnerability signal from the fish's perspective. Picture a small perch or shad that has been attacked by a bird from above or sideswiped by a larger fish. It's stunned. It loses control of its swim bladder and begins to spiral downwards. This is not a subtle event in the underwater world. This uncontrolled descent is a universal sign of weakness. Every predator fish recognizes it instantly. A jig, a spoon, or a soft plastic rigged to fall with an erratic, fluttering action is the perfect imitation of this. It's not swimming, it's failing, and failure in nature means food for something else. When a base sees your Senko shimmying down, it doesn't see a plastic worm. It sees a dying creature that has given up. This is a far more powerful trigger than a lure sitting perfectly still on the bottom, which mimics nothing in the natural world except maybe a waterlogged stick. The falling motion is the key that unlocks the predatory response. Now let's add the element of surprise. Most predator fish, especially bass and pike, establish ambush points. They sit near a weed edge, under a dock, or next to a log, waiting for prey to come to them. They are facing outwards, scanning their territory. Your lure, falling from the surface, enters this strike zone from a blind spot, directly above. The fish doesn't see it coming from a distance. It doesn't have time to track it, analyze it, and become suspicious. It just appears. One moment there is nothing, the next moment a potential meal is falling right in its face. This sudden appearance forces an instant decision. There is no time for caution or scrutiny. The fish has a split second to either attack it or let it pass by forever. This is the now or never moment. On the contrary, a lure on the bottom is predictable. It's just there. The urgency is completely gone. We need to talk about a fish's superpower, its lateral line. This is a system of sense organs that runs along the side of a fish's body, detecting movement, vibration, and pressure changes in the water. It's how a fish can feel its surroundings even in total darkness or murky water. A falling lure creates a symphony of these signals. A spoon flutters, sending out powerful thumps and flashes. A tube jig spirals, displacing water in a unique vortex pattern. A swim bait's paddle tail kicks subtly on the descent. All of these vibrations are like shouting, "I'm here," to the fish's lateral line. It's an irresistible call that draws the fish in to investigate. But what happens when the lure hits the bottom? Total silence. The vibrations stop. The pressure waves cease. From the fish's perspective, the thing that was alive a second ago has just died and turned to stone. The primary sense it was using to track the lure has gone dark. This brings us to the dead lure problem. Once your lure comes to a complete stop on the bottom, it loses every single quality that made it attractive. The flash is gone. The vibration is gone. The profile is often obscured. Most importantly, the illusion of life is shattered. Think about it. What in nature behaves this way? A creature falls through the water column full of movement and then instantly becomes as inanimate as a piece of gravel. It's profoundly unnatural. To a fish, this is a massive red flag. The object is no longer behaving like prey. It's now a suspicious, foreign object that doesn't belong. This is when the fish's caution kicks in. The instinct to strike is replaced by an instinct to avoid a potential trap or something that just feels wrong. Your perfectly good lure has just transformed from a tempting meal into a weird-looking rock. Let's call the period after the lure stops the scrutiny phase. When the lure was falling, the fish had no time for a close look. It was a blur of motion and instinct, but now, sitting motionless on the bottom, your lure is under the microscope. The fish can swim right up to it. It can see the unnatural gloss of the paint. It can see the hook point. It can sense the hard, manufactured texture instead of soft flesh. It might even be able to smell the human scent or the plastisol from the factory. The fish is no longer in attack mode, it's in investigation mode, and your lure is not going to pass a close inspection. This is why you'll often see a fish nose up to a dead-sticked lure and then just turn away in disinterest. The magic is gone. You gave it too much time to think, and a thinking fish is a fish that doesn't bite. Consider the simple issue of profile and visibility. As your lure falls through the water, it is silhouetted against the bright surface light. Whether a fish is looking up or seeing it pass by horizontally, the shape is clearly defined. A base can easily identify the profile of a bait fish, a crawfish, or a worm. It's a clear, recognizable shape against a contrasting background. But when that same lure lands on the bottom, its profile can be completely lost. It might fall into a crack between rocks, it could sink into soft mud or silt, it could be camouflaged by weeds or algae. Its three-dimensional shape flattens against the two-dimensional background of the bottom. Suddenly that distinct baitfish profile just looks like another lump in the underwater landscape. It has literally vanished from the fish's search image, even if it's only a few feet away. Let's get back to energy conservation because it is the #1 rule of a predator's life. Every action a fish takes is weighed against the potential energy gain. Chasing down a healthy, fleeing baitfish is a high-risk, high-energy activity. There's a good chance the baitfish will escape. Hitting something that is falling directly into your strike zone, on the other hand, is the most energy-efficient hunt imaginable. It requires minimal movement, maybe just a quick flick of the tail and a flare of the gills. It's the equivalent of a free lunch falling from the sky. So when a fish sees a lure on the drop, its brain calculates an easy win. Maximum calories for minimum effort. But when that lure is on the bottom, the calculation changes. Now the fish has to approach it, inspect it, and then decide to pick it up. The energy cost, however small, has gone up, while the easy meal trigger has gone down. The fish simply decides it's not worth the effort. We touched on the now or never moment, but let's dig deeper. The psychology of a fleeting opportunity is incredibly powerful. Your lure falling through the water column is a moving target. It is only in the fish's strike zone for a few brief seconds before it is gone forever, either by hitting the bottom or being reeled away. This creates a sense of urgency. The fish's predatory brain understands that hesitation means a missed meal. This is a powerful motivator for an immediate, aggressive strike. Compare this to the lure sitting on the bottom. The urgency is zero. From the fish's perspective, that object isn't going anywhere. It can inspect it now or in 5 minutes or not at all. There is no trigger forcing an immediate decision. By letting your lure sit still, you are removing the single greatest psychological advantage you have, the fear of loss. You're giving the fish all the power and all the time in the world. Let's talk about mimicking panic. The fall of your lure doesn't just mimic a wounded creature, it mimics a panicking one. Think of the erratic, side-to-side flutter of a casting spoon. It's not a gentle descent. It looks like a baitfish that is desperately, spastically trying to regain control, but failing. It is this visual signal of panic is a dinner bell. Predators are drawn to chaos and distress because it signals an easy kill. A creature in panic is not paying attention to its surroundings, making it an easy target for ambush. Your lure is an actor, and its role during the fall is to be the most panicked, out-of-control thing in the water. But when it hits the bottom and stops, the play is over. The actor has forgotten its lines. It goes from a convincing portrayal of panic to a boring, lifeless prop. No predator is interested in that. Another powerful force at play is the competition trigger. This is especially true when you're fishing for species that school like bass or perch. but it applies to solitary predators too. When one fish sees a vulnerable falling prey item, it will move to intercept it. If another fish nearby sees that first fish making a move, its competitive instincts will kick in. It becomes a race. The second fish will often shoot in and try to grab the lure first, not necessarily because it's hungrier, but because it doesn't want the other fish to get the meal. Many of the most savage strikes on a falling lure are driven by this rivalry. But what happens when the lure is sitting dead on the bottom? The race is over. There's no longer a moving target to compete for. The social dynamic that could have triggered a bite has completely fizzled out. Let's break down the sequence of sound and vibration. The cast itself is an attractant. The sound of the lure hitting the water's surface can draw the attention of fish from a distance. They hear the plop and turn to see what caused it. Then, as the lure falls, it creates its own unique vibration signature, as we discussed with the lateral line. This entire sequence tells a story to the fish. Something has arrived, and it is now moving towards me. But the story has a terrible ending. The lure hits bottom, and the sound and vibration abruptly stop. This is an unnatural conclusion. A real creature, even if it rests on the bottom, would still be making micro-movements, flicking a fin, breathing, shifting its weight. The total and complete silence of your lure is a dead giveaway that it's a fake. The story you were telling with sound and motion just hit a brick wall. Think about the relationship between a fish's visual acuity and its instinct. Fish don't have super sharp, high-definition vision like we do. They see in shapes, contrast, flash, and, most importantly, movement. A falling lure plays to all of these strengths. It's a moving object. It's reflecting light in flashes. Its silhouette is contrasted against the surface. It is, in every way, optimized for how a fish sees the world, how its brain is programmed to interpret visual cues. It's a purely instinctual target. The moment it stops moving, the fish has to switch from its fast, instinct-based visual processing to a slower, more analytical mode. It starts trying to see the fine details. And the details of your lure, the paint, the hooks, the split rings, are not what its brain is looking for. You've taken the lure out of the world of instinct and put it into the world of intellect, and that's a battle your lure will always lose. Sometimes the initial hit on the drop isn't even a full-blown feeding attempt. It can be what's called a curiosity bite or a testing bite. The fish sees this strange object falling and isn't sure what it is. Is it food? Is it a threat? Is it another fish? The quickest way to find out is to give it a little bump or grab it in its mouth to see what it feels like. These are often the light thumps that are so easy to miss. The fish is essentially asking, "What are you?" If you set the hook, you catch it. But if you miss and the lure settles to the bottom, the question has been answered in the fish's mind. The object didn't react like a real creature would. The curiosity is satisfied, and it's no longer interesting. It's a one-time only question, and if you miss the answer, you don't get a second chance. Now you might be thinking, wait, I've caught plenty of fish while my lure was sitting perfectly still. And you're right, it does happen, but we need to understand why it happens. A bite on a paused lure is almost always a different kind of bite. It's rarely the aggressive, instinct-driven reaction strike. It's more often a slow, lethargic fish in cold water that needs a long time to make up its mind. Or it might be a true hunger bite where a fish is methodically searching the bottom for crawfish and just happens to stumble upon your lure. It's a low-percentage tactic that works only in specific situations for less aggressive fish. Relying on the pause is like playing the lottery. Capitalizing on the drop is like playing a game of skill where you control the outcome. The drop is the rule. The pause is the rare exception. Let's be honest, a big part of the problem is the angler. One of the biggest mistakes we make is fishing the drop on a completely slack line. After the cast, we close the bail and just let the line pour off the spool with no tension at all. The thinking is that this allows the lure to fall naturally, and while that's true, it also makes it nearly impossible to detect a bite. A fish can pick up your lure, hold it for a second and spit it out, and you will never ever feel it. Your line won't jump, your rod tip won't move. You are completely disconnected from your lure during the most critical part of the cast. The fish bites, you don't know it, and by the time your lure hits the bottom, the opportunity is long gone. You're left thinking there were no fish there, when in reality, you probably got bit and just missed it. Another common angler mistake is simply using the wrong tool for the job. Not all lures are created equal when it comes to the fall. A heavy casting spoon is designed to flutter and flash on the drop. A Senko-style stick bait is famous for its seductive shimmy as it sinks. A tube jig spirals like a dying bait fish. These lures are built to get bit on the way down. On the other hand, a deep diving crankbait or a standard spinnerbait is not designed for this. Their magic happens during the retrieve. Using a crankbait like a jig and expecting bites on the fall is a recipe for failure. It's crucial to understand how your chosen lure is supposed to behave and to choose a lure specifically for its action during the descent if you want to master this technique. Your tackle box is full of specialists. Make sure you're sending the right one in. So, how do you fix this and start catching those fish? The solution is simple in concept but requires practice. It's called semi-slack line control or line watching. After you cast, instead of letting your line go completely limp, you maintain the slightest bit of tension. Keep your rod tip up and reel just enough to keep a very gentle bow in your line, but not enough to pull the lure towards you. Now your job is to become a hawk. You watch that line where it enters the water. Forget feeling the bite. You're going to see it first. You're looking for any unnatural movement, a sudden tick, a quick jump to the side, or if the line suddenly goes completely slack when it shouldn't. Any of those things means a fish has picked up your lure. When you see it, you reel down fast and set the hook hard. This is active fishing, and it's a game changer. The final, most important takeaway is this. You need to completely rethink your retrieve. For most of us, the cast is just a way to get the lure to the bottom. The real fishing begins once it's down there, and we start hopping it back. This mindset is fundamentally wrong. The most important part of your cast, the highest percentage moment for getting a bite, is the initial fall. That's the main event. Everything after that is secondary. Your entire focus should be on presenting the lure perfectly during that fall and being ready for the strike. The retrieve back to the boat is just setting up for the next cast, the next drop. Once you make this mental shift, everything changes. You stop wasting time on low percentage pauses and start maximizing the most explosive, instinct-driven bite in all of fishing. So, let's put it all together. The reason fish hammer your lure on the drop and ignore it on the bottom isn't a mystery. It's a clear-cut case of biology versus physics. The fall is a symphony of predatory triggers. It signals vulnerability. It creates a reaction strike, it surprises the fish, and it stimulates its senses through vibration and flash. It's an active, dynamic event that screams easy meal. The second that lure stops, the music dies. It becomes a static, unnatural, suspicious object that invites scrutiny, not aggression. The biggest aha moment here should be realizing that for years, many of us have been focused on the least effective part of our cast. We've been patiently waiting for a bite during the pause, while the real action was happening when we weren't even paying attention. This simple understanding can fundamentally change your approach and dramatically increase your catch rate. Thank you so much for watching. If this explanation finally clicked for you, do me a favor and hit that like button. and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more content that breaks down the why behind fishing. Now, I have a question for you, and I want you to share your knowledge in the comments. What's the one lure in your tackle box that gets absolutely crushed on the drop more than any other? Name the brand, the model, the color. Let's build a master list of the best falling baits right here in the comments. See you on the water.